for those 10,000 plus students every single year that were working part-time jobs with us? How could we become the employer that we were always telling them that they needed to try to find elsewhere? And these students, they're working on campus because of the flexibility, because of the convenience. And how could we transition to a place where we can confidently say, it doesn't matter what your major is, it doesn't matter what you want to do when you graduate, and it doesn't matter what job you have on campus. Your on campus experience will absolutely help you build transferable skills. And we're going to help you see and understand that. And we're going to help you effectively articulate it as well.
That was Brandee Popaden-Smith, Senior Director at ASU's University College, where they're integrating work into learning and redesigning student employment. Two initiatives we dive into in our great conversation. We talk about the ROI of higher ed and how students need to see the value in real time, because it's not just that they are making one decision to enroll and can see the payoff years later, but they're making ongoing decisions to stay enrolled only if they see the value. We talk through these two big initiatives and how ASU is building coalitions with other institutions and ed tech partners to scale this work nationally. Let's dive in. Welcome to the Connected College podcast. I'm your host, Elliot Felix. I've helped more than 100 colleges and universities change what they offer, how they operate, and how they're organized to enable student success. And if you're a leader in higher ed and you think that the silos and separations get in the way of student success, then this podcast and my book, The Connected College, are for you. We're here to learn and work together to bust silos, question tradition, and forge partnerships so that students feel connected to their college, their community, their coursework, and their careers. Okay, so Brandee Popaden-Smith.
That's it.
I'll use that later for my pre-recorded intro. Welcome, Brandee. I'm so excited for our conversation about how you integrate work into learning and how that helps students succeed.
Appreciate it. It's great to meet you, Elliot, and appreciate the time to talk a little bit about what we see as the future of higher education, too.
You're doing great stuff, and I can't wait to hear more about it. And maybe a good place to start is hearing how you did. So tell us a little bit about how you got started in higher ed and what you're up to today.
So I was definitely one of those incredibly involved students on campus when I was an undergrad myself.
Nice. Same here. Yeah.
Yep, I was a resident assistant working in housing. I was really involved in actually homecoming on my campus as well. And very early on, I learned, oh, hey, this is a job. I could work on a college campus forever. And that became really interesting to me. So I ended up deciding, I think, what I understood to be my potential master's degree before I decided on my undergraduate degree, and then felt like I had to work backwards from that. Finished up my undergrad at University of Central Florida and moved out to Arizona to pursue my master's in higher ed here at Arizona State University. Continued work in housing for a little bit longer and then transitioned into the career services space, working in career services for a little over a decade. Really dialed into a focus on how we're tackling and addressing the question of the ROI of higher ed. And I became very passionate about that question mark and how are we ensuring that we're removing as many barriers as possible for all students to achieve the same outcomes, and that needing to really concretely focus on the experience we're providing for students and the academic journey and what needs to be rethought or redesigned about that. And I had the chance to continue that work stepping into this role with the Work Plus Learn unit in University College at Arizona State University for the past several years.
That's great to hear. And ROI is a complicated subject, but I would
Sure
love
is.
to hear some of your initial thoughts about how you measure it, how you improve it.
I think early on, there was certainly a huge focus on retention and persistence. And how are we supporting students who say, I want to go to college, I want to graduate from college? How do we just basically help them do that and ensure that they're doing so without garnering a significant amount of student debt if possible? And also feeling that the value of the time they invested, the financial resources they invested, and oftentimes their system, their network around them, family, friends, whatever that might be, in supporting them, how do they feel like that's worthwhile to them? And so I think I would say my thought on that ROI is extended much beyond just getting them here, keeping them here, and graduating. It's also what they're doing after and how to confidently say that their life is better because of the multiple type forms of investment they made in their time, their money, their resources in pursuing higher education.
So the ultimate bottom line for ROI is a better life.
It
Education
sounds,
got you a better life.
yeah.
That sounds pretty powerful. That's
I
good
mean, it's
stuff.
be simplistic in some ways, but I actually think it needs to be simplified.
Yeah.
That's if that level of investment necessitates that your life is better on the other side of it. And so we have a responsibility within a higher education to ensure that the experience we're curating and designing is going to do that for our learners. And that they also see us as a lifelong resource too, that it's not just a one and done relationship, that this is an investment in them as a learner now and potentially repeatedly for the many decades ahead of them too.
And is that how you define success too? If you're thinking about student success on the one hand and an education that has an ROI, that has that return on investment, that makes that impact, that leads to a better life, how do you differentiate, or how do you relate the two? What's your definition of student success?
The definition has evolved over time to incorporate post completion success. We're
Right.
at a point that we no longer in higher education can simply focus on the percentage of our students that we're getting to graduation. For a long time, graduation was seen as that finish line, right?
Yeah.
And in a lot of ways, once institutions got their students there, it was like, all right, we did our thing. We achieved, we did what we said we would do. And we got them to graduation. They matriculated, they got a degree.
And
And
before that, the starting line was the measure. It was everybody was in the access minefield. Hey, we got people to this starting point,
yep.
and then
Exactly. Like you got them there,
that
you got them
success.
going, now you got them to the finish line. But we're at a different point now that across higher education, we can't simply say we got them to the finish line of graduation. That simply needs, we need to embrace that as a milestone, a really important milestone, but simply one of many milestones for those that engage in the journey, the learning journey with us. And so we absolutely have a responsibility to their success after they leave here. And we have that responsibility through the design of the experience that we engage them in while they're with us. And then what kind of support, what kind of partnership are we providing after graduation as well to ensure that those goals they came into our institutions with, they're successfully achieving those. And I think that's where a lot of the question mark around ROI comes from is we haven't done a great job in ensuring our students are feeling that validation of this was worth my time and my energy and my money, potentially for years, if not decades after. And that's really hard when you're graduating and looking for employment and struggling and really questioning yourself. Did I just waste 4 years of my life and many thousands of dollars? Am I actually going to get further ahead than where I thought I would without this degree? We have to help students answer that question much quicker and much sooner. In many cases, even before they graduate, actually.
And what are some of the things you found in your work that get at that ROI, the things that students can do and institutions can enable so that it's not feeling like a quote unquote waste, so that it is feeling like that impact, it is leading to that better life.
Yeah, we're at a place now there. We used to have this focus on time to degree and shortening time to degree. How do we get students through the educational experience as fast as possible so that they're launching into those next steps post completion? And I think we're now at a point that we have to focus on this concept of time to value and how our students are making decisions every semester, every quarter, or whatever the model is about is this worth it to me right now? And if it doesn't feel like it's worth it now, if my life actually isn't starting to see improvement, I'm not actually inherently feeling value now, I might not return next semester. And so it's we're not in a place where we can make
Can't
this
be out.
promise.
You can't push the promise out so far.
Exactly. We can't say in 4 years, we promise this will be worth it to you. You will feel the value then, right? They have to feel the value now. And part of feeling the value now is exposing them to experiences where they are actively developing skills. They're actively applying what they're learning in the classroom. They're actively getting a chance to understand what are work and career opportunities for me post completion. What do I still need to focus on as far as building in my skill sets? I need to have those understandings now and repeatedly through my learning journey to feel like it's worth continuing making that choice. It's not like we make this 4 year choice now for many of our learners and they stick with it. They know they can step back, they know they can leave easily and pursue other opportunities. And so how do we continually show them and demonstrate to them in ways that they can feel that value immediately? And in some cases, that's literally for that majority that are working while they're going to school. Are they actually getting some sort of experience or verified credential that's actually enabling them to get a promotion in their job at work before they
Right.
even graduate, or possibly a higher hourly wage in that job that they're working? A small example, but a very concrete example for many of our learners that would actually prove and demonstrate value to them now, not the promise of value in 3, 4 years from now.
Yeah, I just got a raise is a pretty powerful, or I just got a promotion, or I just pivoted to a different field, whatever it might be.
Exactly.
We're talking about what success looks like and how to get value and how education can lead to a better life. I'd love to hear about the work you're doing at ASU with the Work Plus and program and work integrated learning. Maybe start off, what is work integrated learning? Give us some your definition, your some examples, and then, how that's enabling student success at ASU and with other partner institutions.
So we have a pretty broad umbrella definition, if you will, of work integrated learning. We see this as a way where any type of experience where a student is getting that exposure to real world work, addressing real world challenges, that there is an active employer that is a part of that experience, whether that's synchronous or asynchronous in nature. When we think about apprenticeships, co ops, internships, micro internships, course based projects, micro projects, even experiences like on campus part time work, off campus part time work, volunteer experiences, all of these, if intentionally designed with the focus of how is an individual learning and working at the same time, can all be examples of effective work integrated learning. Our hope is that every learner before graduating ASU has the opportunity to engage in multiple work integrated learning experiences. But in order for them to do, there's a huge focus on thinking about how is it actually integrated, and that's
Right.
our choice to focus on work integrated learning versus work based learning. How is it integrated into their experience they've already said yes to? Internships have been a gold standard for many years, and there's been so much improvement in the space of internships, not just around pay and quality, but also getting it built into academic degrees more and more.
But it's still only 40% of students that do an internship, and I think half that percentage of first gen students.
Yeah, and one of the two biggest challenges with internship is they're inherently privileged and they're not scalable to ensure that every learner gets access to them. So it is not to say that internships aren't important and valuable. It's to say, how do we not so exclusively rely on internships as the only way our students are getting these types of experiences? What are the other avenues? One of the challenges a lot of students experience with internships is sometimes having to say no to something. Are they having to leave a part-time job that has a more flexible schedule and a higher hourly pay to do an internship that is considered quote unquote more real world experience for them or more aligned to their major of choice or their field of interest? We have to stop doing that. We can't force those decisions on students. We have to figure out, how do we redesign the experience they've already said yes to so that this stuff is baked in, that it is easily accessible to them, that they aren't having to say no, or they're not facing these dichotomous choices of this or that. It's and they're pursuing their degree and they're getting relevant work experience where they're practicing either knowledge they're acquiring, they're building skills. So that's been really our focus, is where are the ways and how do we identify opportunity for that, and taking it on ourselves as the institution where the places of redesign need to be, versus saying to the student, you have to do this and that, because that's often what they're getting told, is you need to be involved in a club and you need to get leadership experience and you need to get an internship and you need to, oh yeah, and take 15 hours of course credit every semester on top of taking care of family and all of these other responsibilities. So we've identified two areas of focus that we've been working on for the past several years. One focused on curriculum. Where and how are we actually better integrating employer designed projects and micro projects into the curriculum? Courses where students are actively engaging in that application of knowledge on these projects. And these projects are designed by employers across nonprofit, government, and corporate entities. And they're giving the chance for those students to actually, again, work on a real world challenge or need and get feedback from employers about the work product that they've produced as well.
I think those are so powerful. It's such a smart thing to do. People ask me, my first book, How to Get the Most Out of College, has 127 tips, and people say, which is the most important one? And I always say it's tip 69. It's do real world projects in your classes. And I think it's so critical and it's in such short supply. There's a
Mhm.
great Wiley survey. 81% of students are looking for company-led projects and 30%
Mhm.
of faculty are offering them.
Yep,
So I love that you're focusing on three words, work integrated learning, but the integrated is the key part
it
because
is.
that's when it's not extra. It's not,
Yep.
oh, go to career services in spare time that you don't have. It's knitting it all together. What's the second big thing?
The other area for us, I hate to simplify it, but low hanging fruit for us, which was student employment. So our institution employs over 10,000 students in part time jobs every year. We are the employer.
Yeah.
So, what we discovered was we had a really big opportunity to offer high quality, intentionally designed experiences that would help students actually build skills and actually build relevant experience that they could talk to future employers about if we focused on it and really thought about it intentionally. Our student jobs it's definitely sat in a space that they were a bit more transactional. Important. A student was earning a paycheck and they were doing so in a very flexible environment. And both of those things were incredibly valued and valid and still are. But we said this is actually our chance to not just talk the talk, but also walk the walk. We were really good as an institution at telling students what to look for in a quality employer for an internship experience or an off campus job. We were really good at telling employers what they needed to be for our students to actually get quality experiences. But there was a question mark as to whether we were doing that ourselves as an employer. And so that became our chance to focus internally here at ASU on what we were committing to student employment for those 10,000 plus students every single year that were working part-time jobs with us. How could we become the employer that we were always telling them that they needed to try to find elsewhere? And these students, they're working on campus because of the flexibility, because of the convenience. And how could we transition to a place where we can confidently say, it doesn't matter what your major is, it doesn't matter what you want to do when you graduate, and it doesn't matter what job you have on campus. Your on campus experience will absolutely help you build transferable skills. And we're going to help you see and understand that. And we're going to help you effectively articulate it as well. So, we've been in a multi year process of redesigning what student employment is here at ASU through Work Plus. And we've been able to not just say, hey, we think it's important here at ASU, it's certainly a national challenge. I think Georgetown quoted over 14 million what are considered working learners across the country. So those are individuals working at the same time that they're pursuing their degree. Not all of them on campus, of course, but when you think about that number, this is a
Yeah.
national challenge in knowing that many of those students do work on campus. And how are we not just doing this work here at ASU? How are we partnering with other institutions across the country, of which we did through the Work Plus Collective? 36 partner institutions, all focused on the idea of redesigning student employment to be that high impact experience that they can ensure their students are building relevant skills that they know how to talk to a future employer about. And that student job on campus is now becoming a relevant experience valued similarly to an internship.
It's so smart and it's so great to do it and to create that network effect, to do it in a group, in a collective like that. What are some of your early success stories about jobs that you've redesigned that maybe started off as, like you're saying, purely transactional and now have learning integrated into the experience?
Yeah, I mean, I think that several of the examples I can point to internally here at ASU are positions that they went from a model where there may have been 100 students to one supervisor, and that student was
Holy sh.
maybe, yeah, maybe one time a semester was getting face to face time with that supervisor to talk about things in a one on one environment, to now much smaller ratio of student employee to supervisor. They're having regular conversations, not just about are you getting the tasks of the job done, but also about how are these tasks actually helping you build skills? How can you talk about this job as a way that you've built relevant experience that's going to help you after you graduate?
So there are touch points that allow for professional development as opposed to just, that the kind of transactional delivery task completion.
Exactly. And a lot of that work also had to come in thinking about what were the systemic structures that existed that either enabled or prevented the desired state. Well, a lot of times when we had that kind of ratio, it was because of the structure within that unit or that department, not necessarily prioritizing student employment as a working and learning opportunity. So
Yeah.
I think another success point is a lot of units really thinking critically about what kind of time and support do we provide our staff and faculty that are supervising the students that enables them to provide the time and space and support necessary for it to be this kind of experience? Where are we rethinking job descriptions and workloads to ensure that student employment isn't an afterthought after their day job? That was certainly something we heard early on, is folks that were supervising 15 to 20 students, but seeing that supervisory responsibility as a secondary part of their job that they got to when they had time, not an intentional part of their role that they focused planning and intentionality ahead of time on. And so that was a big win too, to just help think about what were the systems and structures within the institution that needed to be reconsidered and redesigned to really enable the kind of experience for everybody involved as well.
That really resonates with me. Whenever I'm doing projects and we're creating a new service model or a new staffing model, invariably you run into some structural or bureaucratic or policy barriers that have been holding the institution or the department or whatever back. I've seen creating student success centers where it's we only have one tier of student employee.
Mm,
So there's no, and
upward movement. Yep,
then they're like, we wish we could have students stay with us over multiple
exactly.
years. And if you have nowhere, if your system only gives you one tier, how are they going to move up?
Yeah. I mean,
And so
I feel like you must know what's going on here. That's another great example of some of the success that's happened here, is helping you departments actually build out those layers. So not only advancement opportunities, but that actually contributed to the ratio challenges too. So how are you actually building in leadership roles for a student to grow into? But
that's
then
another
actually that helps with the supervisory and the coaching capacity too when you do that as well.
that's another kind of the way things are done around here is students can't supervise students.
Oh God.
And then when you get that change, that can be a huge unlock because then again, a student with more experience can move up and then you don't have 100 students reporting to one supervisor or whatever.
Yeah, it's interesting. Peer-to-peer coaching is a common concept, a well-researched and understood structure to support students at an institution. But interestingly enough, it was never like considered to be in the supervisory space and student employment as a scalable way to think about how to support students. We've seen huge success with that, right? And the student
Yeah,
moving up into a leadership and supervisory capacity, it is functionally peer-to-peer coaching and support is what it is.
that's such a great point because it's sometimes the thing is staring you right in the face
Uh-huh.
because we've had TAs for a long time
Yep.
in the classroom, but the idea that you couldn't have them in the workplace, in the academic workplace, is crazy town.
I just to briefly touch on the other side too about externally to the institution, I shout out to a few of our partners we worked with for a few years, institutions like University of Central Florida, Georgia State University, Bowling Green State University, Virginia Commonwealth University. These are institutions that have made major strides in what the working experience looks like for their student employees. Everything from things actually being built in, working learners actually being a identified and articulated value and component of institutional strategy or institutional plans that they're putting together, to full on redesigns, repositioning of student employment offices in partnership with other units. Lots of these institutions have just taken this approach that we've done here, and part of what we share with our other partners, of human-centered design and thinking about what needs to change at your institution. How do you really deeply understand the needs of your users, your student employees, and their supervisors, and design the future of student employment on your campus around that? And several institutions have just done amazing work in very short periods of time of really elevating the value and the experience for their student employees and their supervisors on campus in the past several years.
It makes great sense because so much of this is integrated already into the institutional strategy. Like I know at VCU, they're all about the real learning, REAL, and the idea that you could reimagine student employment and connect work and learning to give students the real world experiences just makes perfect sense. And by the way, they're also, I love this story about questioning assumptions because one of the other ones they questioned was they built a new science building and they started having office hours in the commons, in a common space. And they got way more traffic. And I think a third of the folks that went to office hours had never gone before because it's very different if you're not going to a faculty office. It's a lot more approachable. And
Mhm.
sometimes these are the kind of traditions, policies, procedures we have to rethink to get better outcomes.
There's so much data out there around employment and what are best practices in the quote unquote full time world, right? Of how you retain employees, how you help employees feel valued that absolutely apply to the space of student employment too, right?
Yeah,
We have early indicators showing us that students are now feeling more valued in their student employment jobs and are
that's
wanting
great.
to stay around longer, right? To your point, they want to move up, they want to
Yeah.
elevate their experiences with it. But instead of jumping ship, if you will, to another job that, where it feels, okay, maybe I'll build better skills here, or maybe this is more aligned to what I want to do when I graduate, or I'm not necessarily just feeling like a transactional component of this team, these students are sticking around a little bit longer saying, hey, I can see that this department or this college is investing in me. I get time on the clock to professionally develop myself. I'm not having to
Yeah.
do that outside of this job. That same feeling that we know a ton of data out there about why that is valuable in full-time workforce and those kind of work environments, it's absolutely applicable to our students too. They need the same types of experiences and the same types of support in these jobs too. And it increases their likelihood to say, this job is worth my time. And I know that I am invested in and these people care about my success.
I think as you're doing that, I'm conscious of the fact that you're talking about best practices and you're talking about learning from what's already happening in other aspects of employment. You're doing all this in a world that isn't standing still. So as you think about work as a learning experience that connects to curriculum, that builds skills, that builds relationships, what are the big things that are changing how you do all this? As you see around corners, like what are the changes you're mindful of in this area?
I think that there's certainly a question mark of how we can grow the accessibility to and the engagement in work integrated learning experiences. Higher ed isn't the only factor at play here, right? In order to offer these, there's an employer, there's an industry partner on the other side. And oftentimes there's an educational technology partner who serves as an intermediary, as a part of this ecosystem, if you will. We often refer to it as the work
Hmm.
integrated learning ecosystem, which includes higher ed, it includes industry, and it includes ed tech. I think we've just started on some work that we refer to as the Work Integrated Learning Accelerator. So, again, another national effort, coalition of institutions. But the unique space here is that we're actually engaging industry partners and ed tech partners because this kind of triad, if you will, we haven't gotten together to actually co design models and test models of how to scale work integrated learning. And we believe that's what's necessary. It's necessary for all of these partners to come together to understand the needs of today's learner, to understand the challenges that exist with industry in order for them to actually offer more and actually scale the amount and the types of experiences they're offering for students. And for ed tech to come into play to see how they're a partner in it as well. How do they enable and create and facilitate ways for employers to offer more experiences, but doing so in a way that's accessible and meaningful to higher ed partners and the students that exist within them. So I think that's for us with a little bit around the corner is us actually acknowledging all of these partners as a part of an ecosystem. The true definition around an ecosystem is not that just they exist together, it's about how they work together. And so we're in the process of building and testing some models in the next year to 2 years that we're hoping can actually shed light on how to actually really scale work integrated learning across a wide variety of institutional types, a wide variety of industry partners to better understand, especially within the space of like small and medium type businesses. That's the vast majority of what's out there. And so, how are we better engaging them in these kinds of experiences and getting them connected to students and getting students exposure to these types of workplaces and job functions and job opportunities as well too. So we've got to get into this space to try to test something new and different because we haven't quite figured it out yet to where we've hit enough scale that every learner has access to these experiences with no additional financial burdens, right? So I think that's a space we're pretty excited about is this testing mode for the next couple years in this ecosystem and bringing these partners together in a way that I don't think we've been brought together in the past to solve for this challenge.
That's really great because sometimes you want and need to reinvent the wheel because the wheel isn't working so great because you don't have tiers of student employees or whatever it might be, or you have someone with 100 student reports. But other times you really don't want to reinvent the wheel, and there may be a partner, ed tech or otherwise, that can help you scale and already has some model that works at scale Like I know you're working with Ripen, I think is one of the companies, right, that gives you a marketplace for these career opportunities. Is
Yeah,
that the kind of thing you
absolutely.
mean?
Yeah, and I think that they are, and Ripen's such a good example of not just an ed tech vendor, but a learning partner. And that's what
Yeah.
we've really focused on is who can come to the table alongside and learn with us, right? Actually listen to student need on campus, listen to faculty and staff need on campus, listen to industry need, and be willing to test things that might be slightly different. I think back to, what I mentioned earlier about the approach that we take in some of the national work we do. It's not this model where we create a playbook and say, hey, here's what worked at ASU. Here's the playbook. You should be able to try it and it should work at your institution. It doesn't work. And
Yeah.
it doesn't work because it doesn't actually factor in understanding and of current context at that institution, current priorities, current needs, current student challenges, differences in demographics of students. And I think that's where we're really hoping that we can make some shift, especially with these ed tech partners coming alongside to do this work with us, is to be able to say, yes, there are existing tech structures and products and services offered. Can they actually be brought into and implemented into any university environment and find the same level of success? We already know the answer, no. And so what are the conditions necessary within the institutions to actually be able to effectively implement these products or technologies? And what is necessary
How do
as
you
far
have to
as
adapt them? Yeah.
exactly. How can these ed tech partners actually come along and better understand points of adaptation within their product or service and flexibility and places needed for their product or service to actually be effective on different types of campuses with different types of learners too.
Really great stuff. I think it's really inspiring to hear work integrated learning, three simple words with a transformative impact. And I love the focus on the integration. So it isn't extra stuff that you do in spare time that you don't have, but it's part of how you're working and how you're learning and how you're getting all the benefits of the skills, the relationships, and the experiences that make education lead to a better life. So,
Yep.
Brandee, thanks so much.
Thanks for your time, Elliot. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the Connected College podcast. Subscribe to my Connected College newsletter at elliottfelix.com for insights and excerpts from my upcoming book, tools you can download, and special offers. You can also find more information about talks I've given, articles I've written, and upcoming events there. And please support the podcast by rating and reviewing it wherever you're listening. Let's create connected colleges where students will succeed.